Hey there, and good afternoon. Welcome. Let me just adjust my screen and share a little bit here. There we go. Welcome. Gosh, we have a really good one for you today. Really, this is all about how to market yourself directly to the decision maker. I know this is some very scary stuff, but you know what? If we sit back and essentially leave it to the lottery system, you know what that system is? That apply online, must apply online. And you get there, and what does that say? Submit. All capital letters until we're so submissive, it's like a Friday night. I think you have to take control of your job search and really go a different direction, open up new avenues of opportunity. There are so many companies right now that really want to place and hire the right individuals. A lot of activity, but that's also a lot of distraction, a lot of confusion. And you have to break through that minutia to really get through to the right people. And I'm going to give you a lot to think about, a lot of direction, everything else today, but also don't forget to don't let somebody else think for yourself. It's up to you to absorb the information, see what aligns with your values, and really learn some new technique to try things that do involve risk, but it's a measured risk. And even crossing the street involves measured risk. And we take a lot of measured risk in life, but really very little measured risk when it comes to our job search. I think you have to really work on and understand the frustration of great managers that can't find the amazing talent. So understand where you'd be most valuable, reach out to those people, and boy, they're really going to want to hear from you. That requires a paradigm shift in our approach to how we're going to pursue the job and the conversation. Also a paradigm shift in how we present and talk about ourselves, how we engage others. And yeah, that means we're going to have some unconventional thinking, creative interpretation, those moments of clarity, the light bulb moments where the dots just connect, simply because we're changing the equation by changing some of the rules. Now, in job search, there tends to be some rules. Let me get a little bit of drink here. Tends to be some rules in job search. Must send Word document. Must tell me how little to pay you. Writing those job ads, those are the rules. Well, I recommend not following any rule that does not work for you. I certainly would never send someone a Word version of my resume. It will never leave my cold, dead fingers. Once you send a Word version of your resume, you really have no understanding of what it may look like on the other end. And that's incredibly important to how someone perceives your value, your brand. Watch the resume renovation lecture in case you need some clarity on that. It'll all become crystal clear. By the way, when I'm reinventing someone's resume or even their LinkedIn profile, not a single sentence anywhere on that material, be it the resume or LinkedIn. Why would we have a sentence in a world where people no longer read? We really have to evolve our communication to concept communication. And that's also part of changing the rules. You're going to have to learn in the job search kind of how the function of job search works to get out of line. It's all about waiting. Oh, send it in and wait. Send it in and wait. Wait to hear from us. We're never going to call you. When you get frustrated enough by waiting in line or sending out all those resumes where I'm perfect. Why didn't they call me? You have to get out of that line that is working against you and understand how you get right to the decision maker. Now, outreach and messaging during a pandemic, well, that changes things a little bit more. It makes things a little bit more complex. The more people work remotely, which is most of the people these days, as we can, the more people that work remotely, that means more people are actually operating off their own cell phone, just like I know a great many people are. It's like work did not provide them a cell phone originally, and suddenly they're remote and they realize they're working off their own cell phone. And suddenly we're outreaching even on their own cell phone. How'd you get my number? Oh, I'm very sharp. We have to think about how we reach these people, and whatever's blocking us, we have to break through that. So if we're going to start our engines, our really scripted engagement engines, we have to understand a few dynamics of how all of this works. First off, every time you feel a little bit lost in your job search, which hopefully is quite often, that may not sound positive, but if you're not feeling a little bit lost in your job search quite frequently, you do not have enough activity going on. By lost, I don't mean I don't know what to do next. Well, maybe a little bit. But really, it's I don't know what to do next because I have so many things going on, so many balls up in the air. 2 or 3 conversations with these companies over here. I have 4 more conversations I'm chasing over here. So much going on, you're going to forget something. Is this the most effective use of my time in this moment? This is your guiding principle. Every time you're feeling a bit lost, what should I do first? There's so much to do. This is that moment that kind of helps you refocus. What gets me to an interview faster? What gets me to a conversation with a decision maker faster? What gets me to an offer faster? And how can I do all of that in such a way that maybe I arrive at a place where I have multiple offers at the same time? That's the only way you really have full choice in your career. So I would say, yes, this outreach is a very good use of our time in this moment. In case you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, resume and LinkedIn guru as well. Really what I do for the last decade is really help individuals really elevate their brand for the career. You've lived your story. You were on the journey, and probably from the inside of the journey, inside of your own story, oftentimes, gosh, it didn't seem very glamorous along the way. And yet, when we look at it and we look at the story of contribution, you have to look back with rose-colored glasses. Let all of the baggage that comes with that experience go by the wayside. And now we think about only the best of the best things I've learned from, grown from, was able to contribute and help elevate the brand of this company, which also elevates your brand. Really a full paradigm shift in everything. Besides, of course, working with individuals to help elevate their own resumes and LinkedIn profile, that story, and of course, coaching people through that entire process. Before all of that, I ran a pre-press service bureau and also ran a very large retail operation before shifting into recruiting. Recruiting, I was in for 7 to 8 years, doing 3 different disciplines on a desk as a traditional headhunter. The type, I have to go into the competitor company, I have to lure out that superstar, kind of shepherd them through the interview process and through the offer process. And really, it's like a glorified dating guru. Very, 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 very close to that, really. Probably should have gone millionaire matchmaker route. Might have produced another outcome, but hey, I like this journey too. Of course, was VP over all 100 offices of our recruiting system, and that changes perspective. And all of that was before I do what I do now. Of course, I give a number of lectures in non-pandemic world. It's for the New York Department of Labor, a couple different locations for New York Public Library's Job Search Central, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, Harvard Business School Club of New York City, a number of others, CUNY, on and on. Thing to really understand here is toss out our old idea of what job search is and what the rules are. You never agreed to those rules in the first place. You were just kind of forced into collectively accepting them. Job search is a sales process. That's what it is. We may not like it, but it's a sales process. So, I have to go after that job and I have to get that job, but it's not really that easy. There's a lot of obstacles to navigate. I might say the first obstacle for you to navigate is likely within the HR department. Now, there's nothing wrong with folks in the HR department. In fact, there's some really good folks in the HR department, but really you have to broaden your understanding. Folks in the HR department only hire one type of individual. If you're that type of individual, my gosh, are they the right ones to reach out to? Did you figure out what they hire? They only hire HR individuals. That's who they hire. Everybody else in the organization, what they do is they facilitate that process. They don't hire those folks. And you know what? They're not experts at hiring those folks. And yet we assign that expertise to them because somehow they're assigned the thing of, screen the laundry, look through the dirty laundry, find the good stuff, find something that's useful. I think you have to think about how that leaves us in a very unhappy place. Because, really most job postings are written by a fill in the blank. Oh my God, fill in the blank. I love fill in the blank. We need to hire. What do you think we need? A little salt, a little sugar, a little spice. No, won't be seen without, no, must have, blah, blah, blah. That's how that material gets written, by the way. And yet we assign so much to it. I'm so excited for this job. But I don't have that one. I guess that's not for me. I'll pick up my toys and go home. What? Your gut feeling told you were right for that job and you allowed the unhappiness of the whole process to tell you, oh, I don't have those 1 or 2 items. It's not for me. Job search is sales process, which means it's all about problem solving. Think about those really tough problems you worked on in your work life, the most stressful project that required all that energy. Well, that's what your job search is. It requires the same level of stress, energy, and focus. Let's get down to the fun part today. Who is it that makes the decisions? Who is the decider? Who do I have to influence? How do I get to that right person? Of course, I think you already realize that I'm not a big believer in going through HR if we can avoid it. Sometimes I will go through HR if that's the avenue that is open to me. But for the most part, I understand that's an avenue that's going to be very similar to trying to tie my shoelaces with chopsticks. Now, my other half is Asian, which means we cook a lot of Asian food. And you know what? I can tie my shoes with chopsticks. However, if you saw most people trying to tie their shoes with chopsticks, it would be beyond the ridiculous. That's how it has become in trying to get hired through the traditional HR department. I think you need to change that whole process. It doesn't work for the majority of people, and you need to go right to the decision maker who is already frustrated that they're not being presented with the very best of the best of the best. Because that fill in the blank job posting, which was put together in such a little of this, little of that, little salt, sugar, spice, that goes down to HR. By the time it gets down to HR, it is chiseled in stone. Checkbox list. You don't match the magical checkbox list. By the way, I call the job posting something else. I call it the list of the irrelevance. That's a new word with a T and an S on it, because almost everything on this list is irrelevant to the job. Oh, yeah, tangentially connected. I get that. That is not a picture of the day-to-day of this job. By the time that goes to HR, it's carved in stone. They're not an expert at this job. They have this cursory understanding of it. They have this really faulty checklist that was developed by fill in the blank. And suddenly you're being judged against that without any of the real background to judge whether you're the right one. You know who would know that you were the right one just from a few words of conversation? The decision maker. That's why you have to get to that person. That's why you have to break through. By the way, will everybody be happy that you broke through and got to them? Absolutely not. Probably going to run into 10 or 15% that are the old dinosaurs, or maybe they're the new dinosaurs that are confused over, how'd you get my number? How'd you track me down? Why do you people call me? You people. had said someone say that to one of my clients yesterday. You people get right through to me. Yes. And maybe you should consider hiring those people that are so capable that they can navigate all of that. But of course, you have to play and work with the actual statistical numbers. I wouldn't want to upset anybody. But if 10 or 15% might get upset at this approach, what's the flip side of that? 85 to 90% of the people will be really thanking their lucky stars that you broke through the barrier to get to them, because they'll see your value. And from the 10 or 15%, you're going to try to win them over right to the last minute and also extract something usable or useful to you. So these decision makers, who are they? Well, whatever your field is, I think it's pretty easy to figure that part out. We all have the understanding of the organizational chart structure for our area. Just work backward. The titling is pretty simple. If it's not these exact titles, I think you know what they are, and it's pretty darn similar. Think about that structure, because in reality, I wouldn't like you just to go to the decision maker. It's so much more effective if you start with the boss's boss or the boss's boss's boss. Big fan of going 2 or 3 levels above the decider. By the way, that's not a new concept. Top-down selling. Salespeople have been doing that forever. If I go further up the food chain, first off, those people, they're not afraid of me. I'm not some challenge to them, even though it might be, how'd you get my number? Gosh, people in the industry were talking about you, and somebody had given me your number and said I had to reach out to you. So I couldn't resist. You know, I'm not actually going to tell them how I got that number, of course, but you have to put enough in place that it's about them, and they can't resist from a human being standpoint coming back to you. So think about how you're going to get to those decision makers. And if you start further up the food chain, those people need strategic assets on the board to play the game. If you're valuable to them, they'll understand that, oh my gosh, that's an interesting background. I should introduce you down to so-and-so. And they think of directly who the manager is, right down the food chain they need to introduce you to. And you know what? In general, when you get that top-down referral, you always get the interview. Not every single time, but virtually every single time. So that's how powerful that is. Begin to think about your structure and how you might work the whole structure, because that's how you influence everybody. Not just the decider, but all those people that are around the decider. Now, I'm going to give you some pretty direct outreach specifics here today, but I want you to have a thorough understanding of how I see job search. Let me get a drink. First off, the tragedy, which I see everywhere, is that a large percentage of people seem to think that job search is sitting on the internet, looking at job postings all day long. Oh, busy day of job search. I was searching all day long. I applied to 3 or 4 things. What, you applied, you submitted to 3 or 4 things? What, you spent like 30, 40 minutes each submitting your stuff for approval? How did that go for you? Well, I didn't hear back yet. I'm like, okay, well, I'll check back in a few weeks. Probably not going to do very well. About half of all job postings are not real. That's a real shocker to people. They're like, what do you mean it's not real? There it is. It's posted. I see it. Okay, but to be real in my view, and everything I'm teaching you today is my opinion, to be real in my view, it has to, well, they have to be ready and authorized to start a search to hire. I've got the budget. I'm approved for the rec. I can start advertising. And when I identify qualified right individuals, I have to be willing to set a time to interview. And in the interview process, once I identify really the right qualified candidates that are really solid for that role, when I find the right one, I have to be ready to extend an offer, set as a start date. All of that is required to be an actual real job posting. Otherwise, they're endlessly window shopping. Now, why do half of them turn into window shopping? That comes out of how those job postings are sold. I was VP over the 100 office recruiting system. Really, I can tell you how a company of any size, no, not the mom and pop dig on the corner, but a company of any size, they buy their job postings one time per year. Only way you ever get a good deal. So even in terms of the recruiting firm, had to go to each individual office and go, how many do you think you can use next year? How many postings can you use next year? And we collect all that data, look at that number. We go to the sales rep, we do a little horse trading, and it's use them or lose them in 12 months. The moment I sign that contract, no idea 6 months or a year from now what I'm really going to be hiring, and yet I already bought those postings. That leads to a scenario where we begin to post things we may hire for someday. Someday, not today. That also explains why you'll see a posting go up and then come down. A month later, oh, it's back up. Oh, and then it's back down again. Oh, it's back up again. If we're chasing those things and it's one of those ghost jobs that's not really real, all of that time is wasted. Why don't you flip the entire process by selecting the organizations or companies, and it's 30. I know it's a tough number. It's 30 of them that you want to work for. These are ones you're dying to work. I'm dying to work there. By the way, you being dying to work there cannot be because you saw some open job. I'm dying to work there. I saw that job. No, that's about you. Don't forget, this is a dating process. Oh, yes, it really is. It's very similar to a dating process, along with being the sales process. So pick the organizations or companies that you're emotionally connected to for some reason. The reason itself doesn't matter as long as it's genuine, but it cannot be the open job. That makes it about you, and it has to be genuine about them. Then, of course, some might be going, what John's saying is fantasy. This isn't possible. But if it was, how do I align the sun, the moon, the stars working backward, devising the steps? Yeah, it's not that difficult. Devise the steps. If it was possible, I'm a skeptic. But if it was, what are the steps if I work backwards? Not that hard to figure out. Discover the decision makers. Well, we're going to show you that right in today's lecture. That's not a mystery. We'll show you exactly how to reverse search on LinkedIn and get to any decision maker you'd like. Overcome the objections. What was their title? Their title entitles them and actually requires them to object to you. That is how the process works. And when someone objects to you, well, John, you don't have this. I don't. Just like it's a gift from up above. By the way, if someone were to accuse me of not having some piece of background or not having some piece of information or something that they project upon me that I should have, well, by the way, I'd love to have it, but if I don't have it, I cannot fudge it. So the only way you overcome that is to understand in the first place, they would not waste oxygen on this challenge if they didn't think, oh, maybe. I have to ask you this, see if I can trip you up, see how you put your thoughts together to overcome this objection. See if you can convince me that you're the right one. Really, in interviewing, and this is just the outreach, in interviewing, it's your job to teach them how to select you. Well, that factors into even our outreach and how we overcome the objections we may get presented. If they object to you, simply use an agree but disagree technique. You don't have this background, John. I don't. And then disagree with what you say next. But, I'm sure you'll meet a lot of people that have that background in the other candidates. Other people are always candidates with a little bit of da-da-da-da. You're always an individual. And the other candidates that you'll see, what I bring to the table is really quite unique and very, very different. It's also why I'm the individual that I believe will be most successful in this role. And then look at them and try not to blink. It's not that hard for a few minutes. And when you need to blink, then look away for a second. By the way, the only 2 reasons you ever get hired, this is assuming you are capable and qualified. You're not going to get hired for what you're not capable and qualified for. But that's not the deciding piece. I don't hire you because you're capable and qualified. I wouldn't consider anybody that didn't meet that bare minimum foundation. I hire you because why are you interesting? What makes you tick? What drives you? Do you inspire me? Let's think about that. That comes closer to the dating process part of it. Get a meeting, dazzle them, overcome whatever it is, and either get that job or have them create a job for you. You heard me say the number, 30 companies. That's the right number. You start with 30 companies so you can produce the right outcome for you. Even better if they're 30 companies statistically perfect to hire you. Now, in my LinkedIn lecture, which is available both on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook, also on my Self-Recruiter page, halfway down the page, there's a special LinkedIn version, which has me, the slides, me large, the slides large, whatever you'd like. And use it as a start and stop tutorial. In there, I teach 2 different methods for building a statistically perfect list. Really, a good recruiter, if you ever worked with a recruiter, you may have positive or negative opinions. The good recruiters are very good. That's 2, 3, 4% of the industry. The rest simply pick up whatever they find, throw it against the wall, and see what sticks to the wall. And that's what gives recruiting such a bad name. But the good ones are very good. Now, if you were talking to a good recruiter and you're a good candidate, by the way, a really good candidate is someone we actually behind the scenes call a walking invoice. That means they're so good. You see the resume, they're so good. All you have to do is figure out which company's name is going to go on the top of that invoice. I'm going to call 3 companies right now, make this placement right away. That's a walking invoice. That's a superstar. No matter what the role, doesn't really matter, but there's a superstar for every role. Recruiters naturally want to work with a superstar. They find a superstar, they want to make a placement. First thing they do is create this list of 30 companies statistically perfect to hire this person. Then they don't bother to look at the job boards. They don't bother to look at the company website. They simply pick up the phone, make 30 calls to 30 managers, and 2, 3, or 4 every single time go, I need a person just like this. Oh, you do? Tell me what's going on. Tell me what you need. Tell me about the problem. We don't tell them about the homework, the magic trick, or how we approach 30 companies. By the way, 2, 3, or 4 out of 30, very good return. Very good. That is worth your time because they're all statistically right to hire you. So look up how to create that list, understand, go after these companies, and then begin to warm up your audience. I don't know if you've ever gone to see a famous comedian, but if you've ever gone to see a famous comedian, is that the first person out on stage? Never. There's somebody that's cutting their teeth, trying to get some experience, that even usually literally pushed out in front of the curtain. They don't even get the stage. I have to be out in the front of the curtain. And their job is to warm up the audience. So the star headliner has a very different reception. You have to warm up your audience so you as the star headliner have a very different outcome. To me, that's, yes, choosing the companies. But then using LinkedIn, reverse searching, as we're still going to show you, that means I'm going to either see or imagine where this job is that I'm interested in. whether I see a posting or not, it's really kind of irrelevant. I can do the same process. Oh, I imagine I want to work here. I'm going to pick 25 to 30 people up the food chain for very strategic reasons. Left and right into some surrounding departments, down the food chain, all the way down to admin level. Again, very strategic reasoning. I simply open their profiles. That triggers a marketing event of looking at them behind the firewall of the company. They sign into their LinkedIn account and they're teased. Oh, 6 people looked at you, John. 6 people looked at who's looked at me? If you've not looked at that yet, you certainly will. After you start looking at it, it's really hard to not be looking at it. We're human beings. And so I can begin to look at all the 25 to 30 people that surround that job, the people that in a normal world I might likely interact with even on a very personal basis every single day. I start to look at them and they've got my nice shot of my headshot with hopefully I look like the product. By the way, up until just moments ago, I was wearing what I was wearing for my early morning walk. I was in some compression shorts and a bike zip up. And you know what? If I came on camera dressed like that, I don't think you'd be taking my advice. You have to look the part. You have to be the product shot. So they're going to see me looking like the product shot. They're going to see my nice, gorgeous headline encapsulating my value. Hopefully that's much more than just your current or last employer title. Watch the LinkedIn video for that. And they begin to respond to me emotionally behind the scenes, having seen me, 25 to 30 people. I ask them to connect. Really, the opening and the asking to connect is each a hook and each a worm, sliding the worm on the hook, tossing it out into the pond, and being brave enough to just sit there while it wiggles around until someone clicks on your name. Oh, I know we're asking them for connection, but really, I want the connection, but it's not about the connection. This is giving them 2 different opportunities to be aware of me and to click on my name to go, who's John? And they're on the 3-dimensional sales brochure. Really, that's what your LinkedIn needs to be, not simply a cursory telling of your story, but that's the full-out sales brochure, far larger than your resume, to close the deal and knock the competitors to the curb. Don't be shy. We're no longer in the shy world. We're going to have to drink just a tiny, tiny bit of that Kardashian Kool-Aid. Not too much, but a little bit. We have to put our modesty, humility aside. Wonderful, by the way, wonderful traits for all the rest of our approaches to life and everything else in our life, modesty and humility. But in job search and career, these 2 things work directly against us. You're going to have to give yourself permission to go put those on the shelf, no matter how personally distressing it is. And you're going to have to take ownership of who you are because you're the product. And if you're not inspired and dazzled and thrilled with the product and just hoping they pick you, well, guess what? They're not going to pick you. Now we've asked to connect. We don't wait for an answer because the answer is completely irrelevant. This is a sales process. Now I pick 3, 4, or 5 people out of that pool of 25 to 30 people that I think, because really your opinion is all that matters, who do I think is going to be involved in the decision process or the conversation for a person like me? And now I reach out to each one of those as if they're the only person in the world. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill, because you never know who's going to respond. Book a meeting, sell, repeat. You have to think about how this becomes a repeatable process as sales. Now, the better your plan, the better your outcome. I think you've probably at this point in your life probably seen a visual of a sales funnel. Nothing too shocking here. But in terms of job search, we have to understand the more activity that you're able to create, that's why I want you to begin to lose control and lose remembrance of all the things you're juggling. The more activity you're able to create at the top of the funnel, the more that might drip down to something very, very valuable to you at the very end, and that would be multiple offers. So if we're going to get to a place where we have multiple offers, then I'm a big believer that you should be juggling, pursuing 10 open jobs at the same time. Let me be clear, not 10 open jobs at one company. That is 10 companies with open jobs at the same time. That's really difficult to do because it's a lot of outreach, even what I've just outlined here. And I didn't even talk about the layers of follow-up because some of them need 2, 3, 4 outreaches before they're going to get back to you. That's a lot of follow-up. So 10 organizations simultaneously is a lot to juggle. By the way, that is the magical number that recruiters work on. Any external headhunter is working on a minimum of 10 real hot open jobs simultaneously, with the expectation, this will be a shocker to you, with the expectation that they'll make one placement out of the 10, but they have to put their heart, soul into all 10 to get the one placement. That's a lot of juggling and a lot of hope. Also, that's 9 crash dreams in terms of just the recruiter, let alone the candidate themselves. You've got to juggle a lot of activity. Goal out of pursuing all those people at the same time is to generate one brand new initial, not the follow-up, all those are really important too, initial interview with that new organization every single week. One brand new interview at an organization every single week, an initial one. Don't count those second or third level interviews. Those are fantastic, but we're tracking how you're growing and adding fresh blood to your job search, fresh energy to your job search. So back to these 25 to 30 individuals. Yes, up, down the food chain. Think of that, left and right, open, ask to connect. Don't wait for the answer. Now the message is going to be clear. I'm going to, as I go to connect with people, I'm going to communicate. You don't know me. I am professionally appropriate, and give them a little gentle stroke to their ego. A little bit of liquid here. That message, really, it's a write it one time ever, copy and paste it forevermore. I'd like to connect with other professionals in our niche or niche, depending how we like to say that. And of course, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. You write it one time ever, copy and paste forevermore, and it accomplishes all of that. Now, without that waiting, I look back at the 25 to 30, just like I said before. I picked the 3, 4, 5 people I think could be involved in that decision process. And not only am I going to outreach to them, but you have to begin to collect the information for yourself. This isn't just about just this one job search. Hope this isn't a surprise. You're not going to have one more job. You're going to have one more job, and after that, one more job, after that, one more job. That's the world we live in today. This is all equity in your career, knowledge and understanding that you're building from your job search that you can use again and again. So this is a company development sheet. I'm developing information I know about this company. Also, it helps guide me with next steps and how I really work the process and maybe even grow from my process. Forms and all this you can download for free right on my Self-Recruiter website. Just go to the advice tab, which is my blog, and look for where it says Job Search Management System. It's all free. You can download it. It will help you collect very valuable information you're beginning to build. Now, small changes change perception. That means our script is going to have to change too. And yes, you're going to have to work with a script. Very few people can be really terrific off the cuff. Okay, I'm off the cuff right now, but I'm a master of my content. I know my content. There's no like, oh, what am I going to say next? None of that exists. You know, closer you get to being master of your content, the more times that you are able to present yourself in job search, the better you will get at it. Also, the more perceptive you'll get at being able to take those cues and clues that are mixed into everything. Of course, big concern today is working remotely. If we haven't worked remotely before and we're not currently working, we may feel like, oh, I'm left out, and how's it going to work? Surprisingly well, with this largest mass experiment ever since last year, really almost just flipped a switch, and many, many companies suddenly went, everybody's working from home. And how does that work? I'm like, and suddenly, after a couple shaky weeks, it does work. Great, great mass experiment. And from that mass experiment, a large percentage of those people are never going back to an office. Not simply because of concern over pandemic, but because they've been off the farm and they've seen Paris. And once you've seen Paris, it's really hard to settle back down on the farm. Once I've tasted the freedom of being able to go out with my other half for a 2.25 mile walk every single morning and be able to come back to have breakfast and still be right on time for work, or to be able to go out and do the same thing during the lunch hour to be refreshed, or really be able to be together right after the 5:30, whatever that end of day mark might be. Gosh, who wants to give up those 2-3 hours a day out of the commute and the stress? And a lot of it's never going back. Some of it will, absolutely. Some of it will. If you like the office, don't worry. There'll be an office. But if you haven't worked remotely, you might think of these terms. Maybe you've worked or dealt with people that are off-site in any of these capacities. Yeah, that's not the same as working remotely, but you were performing work in a remote fashion. If you understand how to tell the story, that will give confidence that you can do it remotely. Or maybe you've been a speaker and a lot of ideas there, and think about that. A little bit of the way if you close that gap, so they have confidence that you won't just be some face on a screen that doesn't deliver value. So back to this idea of the decision makers, and we mean not just the decider. Oh, I'm the decider. Okay. We'll get to the people that are all around the decider that influence that decision, because that's where the real magic happens. So think about these people. How are we going to get to the boss's boss, or really anybody that we'd like to? Getting to the decision maker can have several different avenues. One of them I can do intellectually. Doesn't just have to be mechanical search. I can do intellectual searches. I can read all the trade magazines or trade blogs or whatever might be out there for my niche, my industry. And there'll certainly be name mentions, basic sales technique every salesperson has used forevermore. Those could be articles, books, events, press releases. Who knows where that stuff could be? And when you approach those people and mention that, oh, Jack, I had to reach out. I saw your quote in the Wall Street Journal on such and such. Oh, those things are always so good to get. Try being a real, actual human being. What might you say to your dear old friend? You say, oh my gosh, congratulations, Wall Street Journal, to your dear old friend. Why don't you say that to Jack, Jim, or Jill? We're all human beings, and they're going to respond to that same stroke of the ego. So think about name mentions. That can be extremely valuable. By the way, everyone that you approach with a name mention understands what you're doing, and they can't resist it because they're human beings. So go in there and do it anyway. Referrals. By the way, good, bad, or ugly. I could have a challenging conversation with someone that I've never spoken to, and yet, if I worked really hard, by the end of it to win them over, I could even squeeze out another name, or maybe even an agreement that I could call them back, the person that didn't like me in the first place, that I could call them back when I see something that they could help me with to connect the dots internally. So referrals can come from a lot of places, including not hiring. In fact, my team's full. Well, we never like to hear that. Wait a minute, what's the flip side of the team being full? When did they last hire? And what did that tell you? Well, I just hired last month. Oh, congratulations. You think I'm happy there's no spot for John? Of course not. But the team's full. I need to congratulate them and change the story. They're not going to get the traditional push back from me. I'm going to take a different route. Oh, congratulations. Always so nice to have a full team. By the way, what was the last role you hired? Ah, phenomenal. Was that in April? Or was that earlier? And get them to disclose when. What was that person's background? I can go on LinkedIn. I can do a little bit of keyword search. I can find the person that just joined since April. And also I now know where they came from. And there's an open job over where they came from. Maybe that's the company I should introduce myself to. So many things I could discover. We can't even begin to cover them all. Lots of ways to get names or referrals, all those kinds of things, whether the conversation went the way you wanted or didn't go the way you wanted. Of course, most of it we're going to do on LinkedIn. We're going to grab a little tissue here. We're going to do a LinkedIn reverse search. We're going to typically combine with our own understanding of the org chart, and this reverse search thing, we're going to look through the titles. We'll just kind of reconstruct what we see there. How do we do this? We're going to walk you right through it. Go up to the top of LinkedIn, doesn't matter what page. You see this unified search box at the top of every single page. It's the same on every single page. So in this particular example, I'm putting Informatica in there. Informatica, big database middleware client. As a recruiter, one of my cash cows, made a lot of placements with them. And you know what? As I begin to type it, I get this drop-down list. Oh, don't click on the drop-down. Don't do it. That's a trip down the rabbit hole. They're trying to trick you into not getting the information that you're after. So yeah, I know it's a little distracting. Most of these say Informatica because they're Informatica. But further on down the list, well, if I search this, what do I get? Wow. Well, first off, I get 2.5 million results that are mixed. That doesn't really help me. Show me the companies. Show me the companies. I want to see if there's other companies I'm missing. Yeah, I'm really after Informatica, but I also have to brainstorm while I'm here. So show me the companies I'm missing, 34,000 companies, and they all say Informatica, at least in this window. But further down that food chain, there's all sorts of other companies. Well, who are they? Why are they here? I can tell you. Used to be one of my fields, obviously. So they're all system integrators further down this list. They either resell or install Informatica software. ... If I'm statistically right to work for Informatica, I am very likely statistically right to work for a great number of organizations that are on this list. By the way, this is one of the methods where you can produce statistically perfect lists. This is not the only method, and there's an even better one over on the LinkedIn lecture, so be sure to watch that. But of course, now that I do a little brainstorming on companies and see who else should I introduce myself to, I'm still really interested in Informatica, which means I have to find the people. So I go back and show me the people. I want to see the people. 2.5 million people. Well, that's not going to solve too much either. I'll be cold and in the ground before I do that. You know what job search is? Problem solving. So, and I only use the free version of LinkedIn. I should mention that. Now I'm brainstorming. I realize I don't need them everywhere in the world. Show me the ones in the U.S. That'll help narrow it down. And I also don't need people that worked for Informatica 3 years ago. So show me the people currently working there. 1,615 results of people currently working in Informatica in the US. Okay, I'm making progress. I can't look at 1,600 people either, especially on the free version. They're going to slap my hand pretty quickly, thinking I'm a salesperson misusing their database. Okay, I have to think a little bit more. Even on the free version, look, I went out. I think it's a VP. It's a VP that's going to hire me. Show me the VPs, really US, really Informatica. What do I get? 75 VPs, a lot of chiefs. Maybe it's a director. I don't know. It's brainstorming. Maybe it's a director. Let's take a look. Director, really US, really Informatica. What do I get? 228 directors. I'm going the wrong direction. I have it because it's brainstorming. It's problem solving. Through this process, I figured out why my numbers going the wrong way. I didn't get focused enough. It's a sales director I'm looking for. And why am I just looking in the US? Even on the free version, right within New York City. That's what I'm looking for. Sales director, really in US, really right within New York City, and currently working for Informatica. What do I get? 3. We're after 3 to 5 people, right? 3 is great. 3 is great. But the closer you get to 5 people, your odds of success increase. So yes, 3 is the acceptable, in my view, first threshold, but if I could get to 5, my odds go up. So I do love these 3, by the way. I've gotten them. That's great. I'd like to get to at least a couple more. Maybe there's a sales VP. Maybe I'm missing something here. Sales VP. You see, these are just really simple searches, nothing complex from a Boolean standpoint. Really in New York City, greater area, and currently working for Informatica. And oh my gosh, there's 2 more. Now I have 5. And I think these 5 people would likely be involved in the discussion for a person like myself. Wow. Keep in mind, this is all part of the process of how you would have selected the 25 to 30 people, up, down, left, right, open those profiles until you're all ready to go, invite them all, and then I'm going to reach out directly to these people. But as I do go to connect with people, sometimes I get the connect button. I love that. And then I get this darn InMail. Oh, please understand what InMail is. Do we understand? It is spam. The literal definition of spam. It is paid email. Please do not send spam. My inbox on LinkedIn is absolutely jam-packed with well over 1,000 unopened messages, all just endless junk spam. Yeah, some very important messages mixed in, some that likely get missed. But you know what? What doesn't get missed is the ones that come into my email. My email, not my InMail. Email. So these 3, 4, 5 people, we're going to reach out to them directly. But of course, Nick there, I do still want to connect to, and I'm frustrated. If I load his profile, they still frustrate me with this send email, but the ... I click that, and there's that little drop-down menu. They've just hidden the connect button over behind the bush. Oh, they'll never find it over here. Their business model is helping you to connect. They can't stop you. So connect with the person. Oh, there's that one-time message I write, copy and paste forevermore. Now I connect with anybody. And of course, part of the key of doing all of this intellectual work, this problem solving, is to begin to build out the information that you discover, because it's a sales process. So connect with people, pick those 25 to 30 individuals, understanding it's a sales process. Open them, ask to connect. Don't wait for the answer. Then pick those 3, 4, 5 decision makers. All of it should be done in one step, one sitting. I might like to knock out my approach to this one company all within an hour. And you might go, oh, an hour? Yeah. If I was very focused and didn't allow myself to sit there with a dish of popcorn, just enjoying the show, yes, I could get right down to business just like you would on the most important project you've ever worked on, and you could knock it out simply in an hour. Not emotional. What it is a chess game. So collect all that information, begin to build it out, begin to think about your next steps and how it's going to really help you. Now, as you take your first step, hi, this is John. I'd like you to hire me. Well, yes, but hopefully not quite like that. That's going to go to kicking you to HR. Have you seen something online? Get off my phone. How'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. Because that's about you. You forgot it was a date. We have to use our soft skills, our emotional intelligence quotient to really open up a relationship channel. Relationship channel, not a one-off. It's a relationship channel where hopefully I can shore up those walls and keep this whole thing from collapsing, keep the communications conduit open. Now, as I approach those 3, 4, 5 decision makers, I'd like you to do it with a coordinated marketing campaign, kind of thinking of a 1-2 combination or a 1-2 punch, matched or married with relentless follow-up. Did you see that word? Relentless. So yeah, I have to engage all the soft abilities I might have, but really it's structural in my outreach. And I just have to be able to motivate myself to use all my communication efforts to get out there and go after them. The 1-2 punch itself is really simple. I'm going to pull up a blank email. I'm going to write the compelling outreach to them. We're going to go into script coming up here. I write the compelling outreach to them. I don't send it. It's up on screen. I could send it, but I don't send it. Now I pick up the phone. There comes the second punch. I pick up the phone and I dial them. Goes to voicemail. I leave a compelling voicemail. Hopefully. If I get to the end of the voicemail and I did not manage to stick my foot right inside of my mouth, I click send. If they happen to be the 1%, 2% that might have answered the actual phone, hey, good morning, this is John. and I go, hey, good morning, John. Click send. It's John Crant. How are you this morning? I'd sent you an email, but I don't think you'd seen it. I just had to reach out. Pause. That little bit of a throwaway about, first off, all about them and excitement, my full name, their first name. Don't miss any of that. Toss away about sent an email, don't think they've seen it. You know what they're doing right now? You know what they're doing? I'm going to look at that email. Where's the email? Now I'm marketing to them through their ears, because we're on the phone, and through their eyes at the same time. And it's a unified message. That's the 1-2 punch. Now, if you got to the end of leaving a voicemail and you somehow did put your foot in your mouth, that's why we didn't send the email. Then I can click in front of my message, which we're still going to get to what the message is. Click in front of the message, and I can simply put something to recover. Sorry about that voicemail. Thought I'd be able to re-record. Didn't want you to lose sight of the fact that I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. We're going to go over the actual message coming up, so don't stress about that too much. But think about all of your communications here being part of what becomes effective in this outreach, how you break through this barrier that's keeping us from getting hired for the right jobs, because we're getting filtered out by people that really have no, at least in my view, have no basis in being able to filter us out and screen us, because we're not HR folks, and that's what they really know. So in terms of presenting myself, selling myself to decision makers, what is your brand? Why are you more valuable than the next 5 or 6 people? Why are you not only capable, qualified, interchangeable, like these little gray icon people over here, but also somehow that exceptional person? You have those interchangeable things, but I'm also exceptional. And that comes to your own understanding of why you're a standout, or will be a standout in your field. Think about your competitors, and you're going to have to outmaneuver them. It's part of taking control of the discussion, all about you. Now, whether our outreach is casual, direct, indirect, that may change over time, but the whole approach itself, no matter which avenue you might take, is first off understanding it's a dating process. It's all about them. You're going to have to think about how this process may lead to the next process, because we're trying to avoid this concept of one-off. So I sent a message. I never heard back. When did you send it? 3 weeks ago? You approached someone at a company 3 weeks ago with one message, and you somehow think 3 weeks later they have any recollection of that message? I don't know what world you live in. That's not the world we live in. It may take you 3, 4, 5 outreaches within 2 or 3 days to this person to get them on the phone. It's your job to make the conversation happen, even if that conversation is because they pick up the phone and go, could you quit calling me? Absolutely, Jack. I'm so sorry. I'm going to fall on the sword, but I just had to reach out and introduce myself. You don't think I'm going to quit selling to them because they called to tell me to quit calling them. Oh, I know they were frustrated momentarily, but they would not waste the oxygen to call me to tell me to quit calling if they didn't want to give me one more chance to try to pitch them. You're there to pitch them. So think about all the different ways that were just up on screen that you can avoid this becoming a one-off. How could I take it to the next level? Of course, combine it with the fact that it's a date. It's all about engagement, which is a lot closer to this type of engagement. And that's going to require us to understand the whole influence piece, open up our toolbox, understand where our skills are weak, where we could try something else. And from that, we're going to use every bit of our focus to create an amazing script. Now, this is part of the job search management system too. You can download it right on the website under the advice tab. That's the selfrecruiter.com. Click on the advice tab, job search management system, part of the whole download. So the script itself, we're just going to take you through the basics of how to write the script. Hi, this is John. I'd like you to hire me. How'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. Security. Not very good. So we have to create interest. That's your job. I'm not there jiggling my cup with a coin in it, trying to get another coin. I have to create some genuine interest. So let's look at a few messages. I'm going to go a little bit smaller so the messages can take center stage on this. I wanted to introduce myself to you. I'm Jack Smith. I'm an expert at A, B, and C. I'm looking for a new opportunity, and I'd be a valuable asset to your company. I'd like to meet with you. I'm sorry, how'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. I hate you people. How'd you even get my number? Wow. So I'm not sure this message, although I hopefully delivered it with a bright, optimistic tone, I'm not sure this message really communicated the right things to the other person. So who is this message really about if we take a closer look at it? Okay, well, I'm this, I'm an expert, I'm looking. This is all about you. We can do almost the same approach, but we have to angle it. It's about them. I couldn't resist crossing the room to meet you. Oh, those dreamy eyes, the hair, whatever. Obviously, we're not responding to those type of things, but understand it's a date. It's about them. What's going on with their company? What's going on with their team? What is it that you're seeing in the news that is exciting you? People that are interested in us, those are the people that we're really interested in potentially hiring. So really, who cares what you want? You're interrupting my day. You didn't approach me about me. You approached you about you. Can I visualize what you're doing? Can I visualize why you're valuable to me? All right, let's look at another one. Oh, what I do is very interesting. You know what architects are good at? Architecture. You know what they're not very good at? Running their business. That's what I do. I've run the back end now of several architectural firms. In fact, I'm looking for a new opportunity right now. Oh, I'd love to meet with you. All about creating interest, creating urgency, creating desire. Well, let's look at this one. Oh, very interesting. You know what that is? My opinion. Oh, yes, I have an opinion about how good my product is. You need to share the opinion. That shapes their conclusion. I told a story in a way that popped visual into their brain. It's interesting in the dynamic. Oh, you know what architects are very good at? Architecture, of course. And you know what they're not good at is the actual core function. That is running their business. And the epiphany is, that's what I do. Then they get the architect or whoever can be off doing their whatever, and you help run the core business. Now, without giving a single piece of detail, they understand how valuable you could really be to them. And you gave it to them in a story that makes you interesting. So that's a very, very different outcome than the other approach. So begin to think about all of these things and who these are directed at. Now, this is a little bit longer one. Let's take this one. Oh, I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited by what I see going on at XYZ company. Congrats, by the way. A very nice feature I read in the Wall Street Journal. My background is in handling a very similar launch to the ones that I'd read about in the article, and really handling all those issues I'm guessing your team might be experiencing with this launch. Look at what I'm setting up in the dynamic. Then all you have to do to have an interview, which is a meeting, is to have a carrot. What carrot can I dangle over here to draw attention that would be so valuable to them they'd want to have a meeting? I'd love to come in and share with you how we tackled all those issues and overcame all the launch issues. And then right for the jugular. It's your job to book the meeting, not your job to sit there and wait and go, okay, John, I think you're valuable enough. I'd like to meet with you. No, it's your job to persuade them, to teach them how to select you. I have an opening on my calendar. My calendar. Words are very important. By the way, if you are open all next week, I am never meeting with you. You are not valuable. Your dance card's not full. I don't know why you're even bothering me. You approach them with a single day, single time. That's simply a device to get them to react to. I have an opening on my calendar, Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then gently, I'm going to hand off control to them as if they really have any control in this process at all. Might that work for a brief meeting? Oh, brief. Brief handles the only problem in their mind, which is don't waste my time. Might makes them feel in control as if they have any control in this process. And it changes things dramatically. So let's look at where the key piece is here. I know it starts out with I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. What does that communicate? I couldn't hold myself back. I couldn't resist. It's all about you. Oh my gosh, I took one look at those eyes and I had to cross the room. Yeah, there's the subtext right there. So yes, begin to create the excitement. Now, I've had clients that will do this. They hear it and they write it and then it doesn't work. And they're like, it's not working. It's not working. I don't understand. Well, what are you saying? Exactly what you said. Well, send it to me. And I look at it and I go, I just had to reach out and introduce myself. That's about you. Nobody cares about you. Well, I care about you, but nobody cares about you. You forgot the most important two words. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. Change the focal point. You're excited about what you see going on with them, not excited about the opportunity you see for you. That's about you. You begin to see, I don't have to read all the things up on screen here, but you begin to see how your words become very important. Your job is to create the interest and desire. Small changes change perception in everything. Back to this one. I think you already saw this one before, probably a little bit of an extra that should have been taken out of this slideshow. So to conclude this part, remember it's a date, although it's much closer to the sales process itself than the date, obviously. But every single piece that focuses into a date about engagement has to be worked into the concept of a sales process. That means the words you choose are really, really important. Every single word that you choose about yourself is important. You have to be persuasive. You have to remove doubt. Rarely, occasionally it might slip in, but rarely am I going to say, oh, I believe I have this. So I believe I'm this. Well, really, if you only believe it, I know you're not the right one. I'm looking for true believers. 30 seconds. What is this all about? I won't come large because this next one you're going to need to see close up. 30 seconds to live or die. And the dying sounds like, how'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. I hate you people. By the way, I had it said to me every single day as a recruiter, and live to tell. I'm also, no matter what you see on screen here, I'm also shy and introverted, which makes most people burst out laughing. They can't imagine that part of it. And I had to deal with people telling me that they hated me, get off my phone. How'd you get my number? Take me off your list. I was a little scared little bunny rabbit that wanted to go cry in the corner after that. But even more than that, I like to win the game. This is about using your brain power. Script itself. Now, you're not going to write it today during this session. You can download this whole form. All the text on the left will guide you how to write the script and remind you what I'll tell you next. But let's go through the structure. We're going to greet them. Now, as I was teaching recruiters for many years, I would be teaching this whole process, really identical to this. And I'd be teaching them, and someone, I'd say, hey, greet them. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. How are you this morning? And immediately the hand would shoot up going, isn't that what they all say? Yes. Here's where I'm going to use the usual, customary, expected, because they're like Pavlov and those darn dogs. You bring the dish of food out, the dog begins to salivate. The next time or two I bring the food out, I begin to ring a little bell when I bring it out. Before long, and of course the dog is salivating, before long I decided to come out without the plate of food and I'm ringing the little bell and the dog is salivating because they're trained. Same thing here. The usual customer expected, the greeting, they're expecting it. So give it to them to open the floor to the conversation. Wait for their response. Nobody wants to do that. If I stop speaking, they're going to tell me, how'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. Get off my phone. I hate you people. Okay. Wait for the response. Acknowledge the response. And we'll tell you how to acknowledge those bad ones coming up. Tell them why you're calling. Get right to the point. I hope it's valuable. Now, if we went to one of those schools, there's only about this many of them. Sorry for the rest that went to some great schools that are not one of those. But really, there's only this many. I don't care if you think your school is in that group. There's about this many. You went to one of those schools, you mention it. I see the doors literally flying off the hinges if we went to one of those schools. You got a great education, but you didn't go to one of those schools, let it fall by the wayside. That's not the point right now. Move on. That's not why I'm going to hire you. Get right down to 2 or 3 key things, 2 or 3 key deliverables that would make them jump out of their chair, then close them. Simply a scary sales term means ask for what you would like, which is not closing. It requires also part 2, which is ask for agreement to it. Have to ask for what you'd like, have to ask for agreement to it. Everybody's afraid to ask for agreement because that's where they go, no. I just won't ask for the agreement. I'll hope it happens. Well, not likely to happen for you. Let's give you a little bit of a audio here so you understand how this should sound. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill, or hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited by what I see going on at XYZ. You know, I saw that Wall Street Journal article on your new launch. All those things are so exciting to get. Congratulations, by the way. Yeah, be a real human being. Talk to them as you'd talk to a dear old friend. As an equal. I don't care if they're the CEO of the company or the person that cleans the CEO's office. Every single person needs to be an equal to us. Never, ever speaking up to anyone. Certainly never speaking down to anyone. And after I dazzle them and stroke their ego, hopefully I attach my value to how I stroke their ego about that new launch in the Wall Street Journal. You know, when I was with ABC Company, I handled a very similar launch. Get right to the point. Here's the carrot. I'd love to really come in and share with you how we tackled all those issues I bet your team's experiencing. I have an opening on my calendar Tuesday at 10 a.m. Might that work for a brief meeting? And if we're doing this in writing, in addition, you have to have one line that sets expectation. Looking forward to a great discussion with a dash. Were you listening? Because I've had clients that will send me their stuff and they'll go, I'm looking forward to a great discussion. That's about you because you felt compelled to be perfect in the grammar. I'm looking for. Who cares what you're looking for? Give yourself some literary license. Looking forward to a great discussion, some momentum. Oh, I guess this guy thinks he's going to meet with me. Yes. Why would you not meet with me unless you are a crazy person or you're not qualified for your own job? And by the way, you'll scare the daylights out of those people that are not qualified for their own job. I actually meant to come here. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. So script piece I think you get, but what if they are having a bad day? What if they say something that doesn't work for me? By the way, if they go, oh, I'm fine, John. How can I help you? Great. Just what I want to hear. Or maybe the trained dog answers. I'm fine, John. How can I help you? Great. I'll take it because I'm trying to have a conversation. You set me up to continue. Or they're going to go, I'm terrible. Ouch. Wish you didn't hear that. Well, Jack, let's see if we can change that. The reason for my call, acknowledge it and get right to the point of why you could be so valuable to them to help them be less upset. Get on to the point. But I hope you did notice I certainly will not speed up just because I sent some anxiety on their end. That's not sales process. I have to disconnect emotionally and understand how I dismantle or disarm and hopefully probably use a little bit of charm in that whole process. Humor sometimes helps as well if we're capable of a little bit of humor. Write out a great script, practice it. It'll help you. Practice makes perfect. You gotta practice that stuff. You could also get an agreement to call them back. Can I call you back and bother you with more questions? Doesn't sound so valuable to me, John. Well, an agreement to call people back. And by the way, I was taught this in recruiting. Thought the concept was completely ridiculous at first until I realized how easy it works. A couple things to think about. First off, are you likely to call this person back according to what I'm setting up? Not very likely, not very likely. Some of them, absolutely. Some of them you might. But what you're doing is you're deepening through this process of getting the relationship into the agreement to be able to call them back. You're deepening the connection chemistry-wise. You're deepening the communication channel access. And also, you're really etching in their memory why you're interesting, memorable. Jack, from time to time, I'll run into something, some interesting situation when out there speaking with others in the industry. It could be helpful. It would be helpful if I could run a scenario by you. If something interesting comes up, would it be okay if I gave you a call for your opinion or advice? If something comes up in discussions? Now, as I said, as a recruiter, I thought this was ridiculous. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm supposed to do this? And I did it. And then I realized how well it worked. I'm like, oh, I love this part. It works great. Honestly, though, you're probably not likely to call them back. But when you do, it makes a game changer. Look at some of the things that work so well here. It's from time to time. I'm not going to bother you. It's time to time. Time to time is not very often. Interesting situation. We have the wrong view of managers. You know what they're living in? They're living in a bubble. They're living in a bubble of their own world, their own activity. And you know what? They're largely cut off for what is going on out there. You are a great access point for information to them. So that's why they will allow you to call them back if you handle all these other things correctly. Oh, time to time. Oh, interesting situation. Speaking with others in the industry. You mean the people that I'm bubbled off from that I'm not speaking to because I'm so busy delivering value? Would be helpful. Oh, you know what? We don't get enough brownie points in life or enough chances to get brownie points in life. Despite what we may feel from everything going on in the world in the last year or two or 3 or 4, I'm a believer that most people are actually good inside and would like to be helpful and get those free brownie points in life if we could. So this language works a lot. Gosh, it'd be helpful. Oh, I could get some information in the industry that I'd like to hear, and I could be helpful, get the brownie points. That's why they want to do it. Run a scenario. Oh my gosh, doesn't every manager want to understand and absorb and think about a scenario? Choose your words carefully. And of course, the opinion and advice that's all theirs is all about them. But now your goal is not to burn out these assets. I don't want to call people and then just burn them out till they disconnect and block me. Every single time, it's about building trust and sowing a little more value seed all around what I bring to the table. Sometimes you have to put them in your shoes, looking out of your eyes. Jack, I know with your background and position within the industry, you must hear things. Who do you know that's hiring right now? Well, ABC company's hiring. Why didn't Jack tell me that before? It's not Jack's job to tell me about what company's hiring. It's your job to get Jack to tell you what companies are hiring. So think about what else you could do here. Well, Jack, what am I missing? If you had my background, where would you look for opportunity right now? Well, I'd go look at XYZ company or ABC company or whatever other company we'll want to name. Again, it's your job to build the relationship, begin to pick their brain, and get their advice, because each of these people has a different set of information in their head, different set of actionable things that they could connect you to. So yeah, be thinking broad spectrum. What can I get from this call? What can I say? What else can I leave them thinking? What are they thinking of me, and what do they think of my skills? And is there something else I can do in this whole process? I'm not going to read these again, but think about the basic job search steps from my perspective. This constitutes an effective job search, and that means I have to get this into a repeatable thing I do as quickly as possible. Really, one of my clients over 10, 15 years here, they have managed to move from one absolutely stunning employer to the next absolutely stunning employer. So much so now that someone picks up the resume and they're like, oh, they all hired you? Every single one an absolute stunner that somehow says that if they hired you, you must be special. You have a laundry list of those things, like a little bracelet used to collect all those little knickknacks, a long time ago. Oh my gosh, all those trinkets collected together are pretty impressive. So in order to move from one amazing employer to the next, you're going to have to get out there and kiss a lot of frogs. Oh yeah, my client had to go out there and kiss a lot of frogs on the way to not only getting the right jobs, but also becoming a master at presenting themselves. Client I'm thinking about right now also is English as a second language. So if you don't really understand what that means they're missing about 30% of everything that is said in live time, real time flow in through their ears, because they have to endlessly contextualize every single thing that they really here just to stay on a level playing ground with, I think I largely know what's going on in this conversation. And yet look at what they've been able to master through practice. And boy, seamlessly moving. Everything is possible if you accept that you're not stuck in this box forever. Oh, there's a way out of almost everything. You just have to allow yourself to think and understand every one of these little outreaches is a gentle figurative nudge. Don't let somebody else think for yourself. Take control of your job search. By the way, if you need help elevating your brand, elevating your contributions, reshaping how the career feels to the outsider, I'm an expert really at helping you really absorb and understand the valuable pieces of that, creating really the right resume and the right LinkedIn profile that works seamlessly together as two different marketing materials. One very, very short and succinct, that's the resume. One much larger, much more expanded. It really is the full selling brochure for you. Need help on either of those? You know how to reach me over my Self-Recruiter website. Everything's under my services tab. And if you'd like to talk before you figure out which package is really the right one for you, send me a quick email. That's not an in-mail, but send me a quick email directly to my email box, which is plastered just about everywhere that all my other information is, and we'll set up a time to talk. Really appreciate you guys joining in. Whatever has been holding you back, let's get over it. Let's quit looking, after we do some repairs, let's quit looking in the rearview mirror and let's look ahead for just what's ahead of ourselves. And that means we're going to have to get excited. We're going to have to know our story, and we're going to have to get out there and sell our assets off, because it's your case. It's your job to make the very best case for you and take that first step and turn this entire thing into the repeatable process. Thank you guys for joining today. I really do appreciate it. This is marketing yourself to the decision maker, really all with direct outreach. Understanding it may even take 3, 4, 5 outreaches to make that conversation happen. And it's your job to make the conversation happen. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Thanks so much. Take care.